They told me, "It's just a tour, Mom. No pressure. Just to see what it's like." But the moment they took my house keys at the front desk and smiled too wide, I knew something was wrong. It was Ruth who said it first. My daughter, the organized one, the lawyer. "Just in case you misplace them," she added, as if I'd been wandering into traffic and forgetting my own name. I hadn't. My memory is fine. My legs may creak like old porch steps, but my mind still ticks. Yet there I was, clutching my purse while my children exchanged glances over my head like I wasn't in the room. "You'll love it here, Mom," Daniel added. My son. Always in a rush. Always with his tie slightly askew, like life was chasing him. "They've got everything. Gardens, book clubs, even movie nights." "I didn't ask for gardens," I said. Ruth chuckled. "Don't be difficult." That was the moment the receptionist appeared. Young, cheerful, too cheerful. "Mrs. Holloway, we're so glad you've come. Let me show you to your room." My room. I opened my mouth, but Ruth gently touched my elbow. A gesture that used to mean affection. Now it felt like restraint. "You'll just stay for a couple days," Daniel said, almost singing it. "Get a feel for things." A couple days. I was led down a corridor with walls painted a shade too warm, too friendly. Art that looked mass-produced, motivational quotes in expensive frames. "Every day is a gift." I felt sick. The room was tidy, of course. Bed with stiff hospital corners, a window overlooking a courtyard with benches and a lonely bird bath. A closet already stocked with clothes, not mine. Beige cardigans, soft slippers, pants with elastic waists. My name was already on the door. Helen Holloway, 2B. "Someone's made a mistake," I said. But the staffer just smiled. "No mistake, ma'am. Ruth and Daniel signed everything this morning. You're all checked in." "Checked in," I repeated, like a suitcase. I turned toward the hallway, but my children had vanished. They left me. Not even a goodbye. No hug. No handshake. Just the quiet slap of betrayal echoing off polished floors. I sat on the bed. My hands shook, but not from age. From rage. From the sickening realization that my own children had planned this. Not discussed, not offered, planned. Behind my back. In my purse was my phone. I called Daniel, straight to voicemail. Ruth. Same. I called my neighbor Lydia, voicemail. I called the landline in my house. Disconnected. I stood, walked to the door and twisted the knob. Locked. A tour. They called it a tour. An orderly passed by and gave me a look. Pity mixed with practiced patience. "Everything all right, Mrs. Holloway?" "No," I said. "This door is locked. For your safety. It's standard for new residents." "I'm not a resident," I said. He just smiled. "Dinner's at 5. You'll meet the others then." I didn't respond. I waited until he walked away, then sat down again. Looked around the room. Every piece of furniture was light enough to be moved, for safety. No locks on drawers. No private bathroom. Just one across the hall with handrails and an emergency pull cord. Outside the window, a squirrel darted across the courtyard. He paused at the bird bath, then ran off. Smart squirrel. I looked down at my clothes. They'd packed me a sweater I hadn't worn in years, and slacks that made me feel older than I was. No sign of my good coat, my diary, the photo of Leonard from 1965. Everything had been decided without me. That night, I sat through dinner in silence. At the table were 5 others. One woman who spoke only in quotes from old movies, another who cried into her soup. Across from me, a tall man with sunken eyes asked me if I knew what day it was. I did. I knew exactly what day it was. The day my children decided they were done with me. Back in the room, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, tracing the patterns in the paint with my eyes like constellations. I wasn't crying, not yet. The tears would come later, if they came at all. For now, I was making a list. In my head. Not of grievances. That would be too easy. No, I was making a list of everything I still had. My name, my voice, my memory, and the quiet rage of a woman underestimated. That was enough for now. By morning, the door was still locked. Not with a bolt or a code, no. That would have looked bad on the brochures. But it clicked shut behind me last night and didn't budge when I turned the knob this morning. Passive control. That's what Ruth used to call it when she was still a junior associate, fresh out of law school. You don't need to fight, Mom. You just need to make it hard for them to leave. I opened the blinds. The sun was a smear behind clouds. In the courtyard below, a woman in a wheelchair was being wheeled in slow circles by someone in scrubs. She didn't look at the flowers. She looked at her hands. I knocked on the door once, then again. Eventually, the same young staffer from yesterday appeared, her smile perfectly polished. "Good morning, Mrs. Holloway. Let me just get that for you." She pulled a key card from her pocket, beeped the door open. There we go. "I'd like to leave," I said. "Oh, well, breakfast first?" "I'm not hungry." She paused, that practiced concern settling over her face like a veil. "Your daughter said you might feel disoriented the first few days. Adjustment period, you know?" "I'm not disoriented. I'm angry. And I'd like to go home." She didn't argue, just nodded like she was listening, though her eyes drifted to the hallway. "Let's get you some tea, all right?" The dining room smelled like overripe bananas and industrial coffee. Half the residents were already seated, most staring at their plates or the wall. One woman wore a sparkly tiara. Another, a man in his 80s, clutched a harmonica he never played. A nurse poured me tea, lukewarm. The man next to me asked if I'd seen his dog. "I didn't know you had one," I said. He frowned. Neither did I. I didn't eat. I sat quietly, looking at the clock. No one was rushing. No one had to be anywhere. Time had melted here, turned soft. And me? I was still crisp at the edges, still trying to hold form. After breakfast, they led us to Rec Room A, which was really just a large space with beige chairs and large font magazines. A soft voice called out bingo numbers in the corner. Someone clapped, though it wasn't clear why. I asked to speak to the director. "Oh, she's not in today," said a nurse with tightly braided hair. "Maybe tomorrow." I nodded. "Fine, then I'd like to call my family." "Of course," she said. But when I reached the front desk, they told me the phone system was down for maintenance. I offered to use my cell phone, except it wasn't in my purse. "I think your daughter mentioned she'd keep it, just until you got settled," the receptionist said. "For simplicity." "Simplicity," I said flatly. "Yes, ma'am." I went back to my room. My coat was gone. My shoes, replaced with orthopedic ones. My handbag, empty, except for tissues and a mint. My life had been edited. Around noon, there was a knock at the door. I expected another staffer. Instead, it was a resident, a small woman with a cascade of gray hair and clear, sharp eyes. She wore a brooch in the shape of a leaf, and her hands trembled only when she held still. "May I sit?" she asked. I nodded. "I'm Alma," she said. "You're new." "Seems that way." She studied me for a moment. "Let me guess. They told you it was a tour." I turned to her. "How did you know?" "Because they told me the same thing, 2 years ago." I stared at her. She didn't blink. And you stayed. I fought, she said simply. Got a lawyer even. But my daughter had gotten power of attorney while I was recovering from surgery. I signed things I didn't understand. Did you get out? Alma smiled. Not kindly, not bitterly. Just knowingly. Let's just say I stopped waiting for them to open the door. We sat in silence. I'm not like the others, I said. They weren't either, once. Do you have family still? She nodded. A son in Arizona. Haven't heard from him in 6 months. But he sends birthday cards. Sometimes. We didn't talk after that. She left me with her name and a gaze that had no illusions. When she stood, I noticed her back was straighter than most. That afternoon, I walked the halls. Slowly, purposefully. I noted every exit, every office, every hallway camera. I wasn't planning an escape, not yet. I was gathering facts. At the far end of the north wing, a door stood half open. Inside, an administrative office. Desks, papers, computer monitors. I paused. No one inside. On the wall, a bulletin board, lists of names. One caught my eye. Holloway, Helen. Resident, full admission paperwork received. Next of kin, Ruth D. Warren, daughter. Legal POA active as of May 14th. My hand curled into a fist. I was wrong. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was betrayal. Quiet, polished, and complete. I didn't cry. Instead, I walked back to my room, sat on the bed, and began planning. On the third morning, I stopped knocking. The staff would come eventually. They always did. Unlock the door like it was a matter of routine, like it wasn't a prison in disguise. But I'd learned something. If I didn't ask, they came slower. If I looked like I was adjusting, they relaxed. Let them relax. Breakfast was the same. Powdered eggs, weak tea, and the same woman across from me humming tunelessly into her oatmeal. I smiled at Alma when she passed my table, and she gave the smallest of nods. Nothing more. She understood. Real action never starts with noise. After breakfast, I asked the staff if I could call my daughter. "Oh, Ruth," the young woman in pink scrubs chirped. "She said she'd be by later this week." "I didn't ask when she'd visit," I replied. "I asked to call her." A pause. "Well, the family said it's better if you focus on settling in first. Fewer distractions." "I see," I said, though what I really saw was that Ruth had covered every angle. I spent the morning in the common room, not for company, but for access. One of the orderlies had left their clipboard on the counter. I walked past, glanced down. Supply orders, notes, room assignments, Wi-Fi password, WCH guest, password, welcome home 22. I tucked that into memory and made my way to the small reading nook in the corner, where a single desktop computer sat against the wall. It was slow, covered in smudges, but functional. No one paid attention. Most residents weren't interested in tech. But I'd worked in accounts payable at the shipping yard for 27 years. I knew my way around a keyboard. I opened the browser, typed quickly. Power of attorney elder parent reversal state of Virginia. Articles popped up. Legal forums. PDF templates. Most important of all, it could be challenged, especially if the original paperwork was signed under stress or without full comprehension. I wrote down names, law firms, advocates for elder rights. A place called Silver Shield Legal stuck out. They had a whole section dedicated to situations like mine. Of course I couldn't call. I didn't have a phone. Yet. I returned to my room, mind buzzing. The world hadn't closed on me. It had just narrowed. Someone knocked. It wasn't staff. It was Alma. "You looked busy," she said, not asking. I was. She stepped inside, no invitation needed, sat on the chair across from me. You're not like the others. No, I agreed. She pulled something from her pocket. A flip phone. Scratched, old, but intact. Found it in the laundry chute, she said. Someone threw it out, probably a visitor's kid. I've kept it in case I ever needed it. And now? I'm giving it to you. You still remember phone numbers? I smiled. 2. My neighbors, and my granddaughters. Pick the one who has a conscience, Alma said simply. She stood, left the phone on the bed, and walked out. After the door clicked shut, I stared at it for a long time. Then I powered on the phone. The screen lit up slowly. No password. No SIM card either. But it still worked on Wi-Fi. I connected to WCH Guest. Typed in, Welcome Home 22. Bars appeared. I pulled out the piece of paper I'd used to write down the number. Silver Shield Legal. Elder Rights Line. Typed slowly. info@silvershield.org. Subject. Urgent request, questioning active POA body. My name is Helen Holloway. I am 78 years old and currently being held in a long-term care facility without my consent. My children claim I agreed to this, but I never knowingly authorized any such placement. I believe the active power of attorney was obtained under misleading circumstances. Please advise on steps to review, reverse, or revoke POA. Helen Holloway, Room 2B, White Cedar Haven. I hit send. Then I typed a second message, this one shorter. To Rebecca Holloway 93@gmail.com. Subject. Need help. Body. Rebecca, it's Grandma. Something's wrong. Your parents haven't told you the truth. Please call me back. 434-555-2911. I paused. Added, don't tell them. Just call. I sent it. Then I turned off the phone and slid it under the mattress. In the hall, I could hear a resident complaining that she'd been served the wrong yogurt. Outside the window, the clouds had parted slightly, just enough for one sharp line of sunlight to land on the floor. Just enough. The next morning, someone brought my clothes back. But not the ones I'd worn. A floral blouse I hadn't worn in years. Slacks from a pile of things I'd meant to donate. The coat was missing entirely. They're from your house, the nurse chirped. Your daughter dropped off a few items to help you feel more at home. I didn't answer. I was too focused on what wasn't there. My good handbag. My wedding ring, which I'd left by the kitchen sink that morning before the tour. My address book. My checkbook. It wasn't just that they'd brought the wrong clothes. It was that they'd taken everything personal, everything mine, and swapped it for something that looked like me on paper, but felt like a stranger. After breakfast, I asked again to call Ruth. She's busy, but she's asked that we remind you this is your decision, Mrs. Holloway. I didn't even blink. Do you say that to every woman they drop off here? The girl flushed and walked away. The phone under the mattress stayed silent. No call, no email. I'd checked it 3 times that morning when no one was looking. Nothing. At lunch, Alma passed me a napkin with writing on it. Small, tidy script. Don't expect them to respond fast. The law firm might take a day. The girl, longer. But someone will call. They always do. I tucked it into my pocket. They always do. That afternoon, I asked to speak with a counselor. They seemed surprised, then vaguely pleased. Of course we have a social worker on staff. That's a good step, Helen. Good step. The counselor's office was painted in muted greens, peaceful colors. A diffuser hummed on a shelf, giving off the faint smell of lavender and something synthetic. The woman who greeted me was in her 50s, with a short haircut and an air of practiced calm. Mrs. Holloway, she smiled. You can call me Janet. I'd rather not call you anything just yet, I said, and sat down. She smiled like that was normal. So, she began, how are we feeling about the transition? We, I repeated. That's kind of you. She ignored the sarcasm. It's perfectly understandable to feel displaced, even betrayed, in the early days. Displaced, I said, is a gentle way of saying locked in a building against my will while my children steal my house. She blinked. Wrote something down. I want to understand the legal structure here, I continued. You said my daughter signed papers. But what, exactly, gave her the right? She shifted. Your daughter has medical power of attorney. According to the records, she enacted it due to concerns about your safety. What safety? I asked. Well, fall risk, cognitive decline. My memory's fine. I've never fallen. I still drive. Janet gave a smile I'd seen on Ruth 100 times. Thin, apologetic, and completely disinterested. Sometimes families act preemptively, out of love, she offered. No, they act out of convenience. Janet tilted her head. What would you like to see happen, Mrs. Holloway? I want my keys back, my phone, and I want to go home. She wrote something else. I understand, but that would require either your daughter revoking her status or a legal intervention. Good, I said, because I've already contacted someone. Her pen paused. I didn't elaborate. She asked more questions. I answered them as flatly as possible. No sob stories, no tears, just facts. By the end of the session, her polite confidence had dimmed. I thanked her for her time. Back in my room, I checked the phone again. Still nothing. At dinner, Alma didn't speak. She simply pushed her peas in slow circles and left halfway through. Afterward, as I walked back to my room, the intercom crackled. Someone called for assistance to room 1D. A fall. The hallway lights dimmed slightly. Somewhere down the hall, a woman began to sing a hymn, low and out of key. In my room, I turned off the light, slid the phone out from beneath the mattress, and stared at the screen. Still black. No calls. But as I was about to power it down, a soft buzz. One new message. From Silver Shield Legal. Dear Mrs. Holloway, we received your message and are reviewing the circumstances. Could you provide the exact dates and documents you recall signing? We'll begin by verifying the legality of the current POA and whether it can be challenged. Please respond at your earliest convenience. Respectfully, Maya L. Client Intake Coordinator, Silver Shield Legal. I stared at the message. Then I typed slowly. May 14th. Signed discharge forms after a routine scan. No mention of power of attorney. No witnesses, no lawyer. I was recovering from anesthesia. I believe my daughter acted unilaterally. I hit send. Then I stared at the wall, waiting for the fear to come. But it didn't. Only a strange, cool sense of readiness. I wasn't asking anymore. I was telling. I never used to believe in signs, but that morning, something small shifted. It was the birds. They'd never come that close to the window before. Just pigeons or the occasional squirrel rooting around the courtyard. But this time, a small robin landed right on the sill outside my room. It stayed longer than it should have. Just looked at me through the glass and tilted its head like it had a question. I stood still, watching. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe it was something. Downstairs, they served the usual gray porridge and watery coffee. Someone had spilled juice on the floor. A staff member muttered while mopping it up. I passed Alma in the hallway. She didn't speak, just looked at me sharply, then nodded toward the north wing. I got the message. Later that morning, when most residents had been shepherded into some life enrichment program, art therapy, or chair yoga. I walked toward the hallway she'd meant. The administrative office door was ajar again. Inside, no one. I stepped in. Quiet. Quick. The computer was on. Unlocked. Someone had gone to the restroom and left it running. Sloppy. On the desk was a clipboard, the same one I'd seen earlier but with a new page on top. Resident status updates. I scanned the list. My name was highlighted. Helen Holloway. Adjustment complete. Next review in 6 months. Adjustment complete. I sat down quickly, hands shaking but steady enough. Opened the internet browser, logged into the Wi-Fi, pulled up my email. There it was, another reply from Silver Shield. Mrs. Holloway, thank you for your detailed response. Based on the circumstances described, we believe you may have grounds to challenge the POA and your current placement. We'd like to arrange a phone consultation. Do you have access to a private phone line? Maya L. Client intake. Silver Shield, I replied quickly. I have a phone. No SIM card. Wi-Fi only. I can call if you provide a number and time. The reply came within 2 minutes. Call us at 1-800-441-8990 at 4 p.m. today. Ask for Maya or Stephen. We'll be ready. I closed the browser, deleted history, stepped out fast. As I reached the hallway, I saw someone, a nurse, watching me from the end of the corridor. She didn't speak, just narrowed her eyes. Too much attention. I returned to my room, closed the door, slid the phone out from under the mattress, waited. At 3:55, I powered it on, connected to Wi-Fi, sat on the bed and waited for the seconds to crawl forward. At exactly 4:00, I dialed. It rang. Then a voice. Silver Shield Legal, this is Maya. I swallowed. This is Helen Holloway. She didn't hesitate. We've got you, Helen. I'm here with Stephen. He's our lead elder law attorney. We're going to help you, but we need to act carefully. Stephen came on the line. His voice was older, slower. Mrs. Holloway, I've read your emails. The situation is disturbing, but not uncommon. Now, I need you to answer a few questions truthfully. Can you do that? Yes. Have you signed any document in the last 30 days while under medication or in a medical facility? Yes. May 14th. I was groggy after a scan. They handed me papers, said it was routine. Was a lawyer present? No. Witnesses? No. Did you understand that you were granting power of attorney? No, I didn't even know that's what it was. A pause. Good, that helps. We may be able to nullify it entirely. I closed my eyes. Relief swept through me, but I held it down. Stephen continued. Next step. We file an emergency petition to revoke POA and request an independent assessment. For that, we need access to any prior documents, medical history, and your existing will. Do you have a lawyer of record? Yes, my old lawyer. Name's Harriet Voss, office downtown. She handled my will years ago. Perfect. We'll contact her. Do you give us permission? Yes. Good. Now, he said, you need to know something. Your daughter, Ruth, right? She'll be notified. She may contest. I expect her to. He paused again. Are you prepared for that? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Then we move. Maya came back on the line. We'll send you an authorization form to sign. Just tap the link when it arrives. It'll grant us legal standing to speak on your behalf. We'll take it from there. The call ended. I sat there, phone still in my hand, heart hammering, not with fear, but with something else. Agency. At 4:22, the link arrived. I tapped it. Signed. Done. By dinner, Alma was waiting outside my room. "You made the call," she said quietly. "I did." Her face softened. "Took me 6 months. Took you 4 days." I didn't gloat, just stood there. "I meant what I said," she added. "They don't expect women like us to push back." "They should learn," I said. She smiled. That night, I didn't dream of escape. I dreamed of my front door, unlocked, and mine again. The call with Silver Shield had changed everything, but outside my room, nothing had changed at all. Same hallway, same quiet hum of artificial air. Same woman down the hall who called every nurse Margaret, even though none of them were named Margaret. But inside me, something had turned. I no longer felt like a guest in my own skin. That night, after dinner, I sat alone in my room. The lights off. Just the pale blue glow from the window. I didn't want to see the room's furniture. Didn't want to acknowledge the soft slippers on the floor that weren't mine. The plastic clock that ticked too loudly. I needed to feel something solid. Something that belonged to me. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I wrote myself a letter. Not to anyone else. Not to my children. Not to a lawyer or a judge. To myself. I took the small notepad from the nightstand drawer. The kind they leave to make you feel like you have control over anything. And wrote across the first page. To the woman who has not disappeared. I paused, then began. You are still here. Even though they've closed the door behind you and called it safety. Even though they've replaced your name with resident, your past with paperwork, your independence with soft-voiced pity. You are still here. You who raised 2 children on 1 income after Leonard died. You who learned how to unclog a drain, file your taxes, change a flat, write a sympathy card, and write a letter of protest to the city council. All in the same year. You who once pulled a boy with a broken wrist off a football field and drove him to the ER while his mother panicked. You who hosted Thanksgiving alone for 12 years after Ruth's divorce made family gatherings too complicated. You who taught Rebecca how to boil an egg and how to say no without a smile. You're still that woman. And this place? It's not the end of your story. It's a wrong turn. It's a detour. It's a page someone else tried to write for you with their pen, but you've still got yours. I put the pen down. My hand trembled a little, not from age, but from release. Writing it out made it real. Not rage, not grief. Just a clear, quiet kind of truth. I folded the note and slid it inside the pillowcase. The room didn't feel warmer after that, or more mine, but it felt less like it was swallowing me. That was something. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't wait for the knock. I was dressed, upright, and waiting by the time the nurse appeared with her keycard. She blinked, surprised. "Morning, Mrs. Holloway. You're up early. I have things to do." She smiled automatically and let me through. Over breakfast, Alma sat beside me. "You look dangerous," she said, sipping her coffee. "I feel it," I replied. There was a moment of silence, broken only by the sound of someone stirring sugar into tea, like it was cement. "I lost myself once," Alma said after a while. "Back when they first brought me here, I gave in. Let them fold me into the schedule, the smiles, the 'this is for your own good' speeches." She paused. "But it comes back. The self. If you keep enough of it written down, enough of it in memory." I nodded. I didn't tell her about the letter under my pillow. Some things are better kept quiet until you need them. Back in my room later, I opened the phone again. A new email. Subject: Confirmation of POA challenge filed Mrs. Holloway. We've submitted the initial paperwork for a challenge of your daughter's POA status. Your lawyer of record, Ms. Voss, is cooperating fully. We're coordinating for a formal petition within 3 business days. Please keep this line of communication private. Sincerely, Stephen P. Tiers, Silver Shield Legal. I stared at the message. My fingers hovered above the screen, then typed back. Thank you. I'm ready. No more begging, no more asking. Just steps forward now. That afternoon, I passed the front lobby and saw a delivery person at the desk with a small stack of parcels. As he turned, I recognized the tag on one of the boxes. It was from my house. Ruth had begun packing it up. They weren't waiting to see how I adjusted. They'd already decided. That night, I didn't cry. Instead, I unfolded the note I'd written to myself, reread it by lamplight, and whispered, just loud enough to hear my own voice. You're still here. The window in my room only opened a crack, maybe 2 inches if you pushed, enough to let air in, but not enough for anything else. Still, I checked it every morning. Routine helps keep you sharp. I didn't plan to crawl out. That would have been ridiculous. I'm no contortionist, and the drop was a good 8 feet into rose bushes. But it mattered that I could check, that I knew what was possible, what wasn't, what might be, given the right pressure and the right time. I'd lived through worse than locked windows. The day I buried Leonard, the undertaker misspelled his name on the brass plaque. 16 years of marriage, and they couldn't get the O in Holloway. They asked if I wanted it corrected, for a fee. I said no. Instead, I stood beside that casket and said his name out loud 3 times so he'd know I remembered it right. Some things you don't leave in writing. You carry them in your voice. Today, I was going to use mine. After breakfast, they led us to movement hour, which meant sitting in a circle while a young woman in gym shoes waved her arms like we were all trying to flag down rescue helicopters. I sat at the edge, moving just enough to stay off the radar. I had a plan. At 10:15, like clockwork, the group transitioned to hydration break, which was just lukewarm water in paper cups. I slipped away while everyone else was being herded into the lounge, back to the administrative wing. This time, I didn't aim for the computer. I aimed for the door marked records. Locked. But I'd seen the receptionist use a keypad earlier. Quick 3 taps, no glance, muscle memory. People who punch in codes every day stop thinking about them. I stood still, recalling her fingers. Right. Down. Right. I tried 273. A click. The door opened. Inside, rows of filing cabinets. Steel, labeled by last name. I found HJ, slid it open, and there it was. Holloway, Helen. Manila folder. Thin. I pulled it out and flipped through. Signed intake form, dated May 14th. POA document. 1 page. Signature barely legible. No witness. No notary seal. Evaluation report from Ruth's private physician recommending a supervised living environment due to observed forgetfulness. Handwritten notes from Ruth. Mom forgets dates. Almost left stove on twice. I stared at the paper. The stove. That had happened once. 3 years ago, when I was making soup and got distracted by a delivery at the door. I'd caught it myself. Forgetfulness? I still remembered the recipe for Leonard's grandmother's cornbread from memory. Exact measurements, and the pan size, too. I took pictures of each page with the phone. No time to be polite about it. As I slipped the file back, I heard footsteps. Fast, coming this way. I didn't panic. I closed the drawer quietly, walked to the other side of the room, grabbed a random binder and opened it on the desk as if I'd been there reviewing something all along. The door opened. Receptionist. "Oh," she said, startled. "Mrs. Holloway, are you lost?" "No," I said calmly. "Janet, the counselor, said I could review my records. I was just checking which one was mine." She blinked. "That's something we normally supervise," she said. "Good. Then supervise." A pause. Then she smiled that tight smile they use when they're trying not to escalate. "I'll let her know." She closed the door. I waited 5 seconds, slid the binder back, and walked out the opposite side of the corridor, the long way around, past the linen cart and the window with the dusty fern. Back in my room, I sent the photos to Silvershield. 10 minutes later, Maya replied, "These are helpful. Thank you. No witness, pose, no notary, nowhere's weak POA. The physician's note might cause delay, but we're preparing a response. Keep documenting, keep quiet. You're doing everything right." I stared at those last 4 words. You're doing everything right. I hadn't heard that in years. Not from Ruth, not from Daniel, not even from myself. Later that afternoon, there was a knock. I expected staff, but it was Alma. She stepped in and sat down without a word, then reached into her coat and handed me a silver key. I stared at it. "What's this?" She looked at me, calm as ever. "Laundry access. Night shifts are short-staffed. There's a service door in the basement. They leave it propped open for vendors. Leads straight to the side lot." "You've used it?" "Once," she said. "Didn't go far. Just sat outside for a while, listened to real air." "And no one noticed?" "They notice," Alma said. "But they let it go if you come back." She paused. "Just don't get caught with the key." I held it in my palm. Cold. Small. Heavy for its size. A piece of quiet rebellion. Not for escape. Not yet. But for the knowing. For the choice. Alma stood. "You're not alone in this, Helen. Don't let them make you forget that." She left. And for the first time since Ruth closed that car door and drove away, I didn't feel like a prisoner. I felt like a woman who still had options. The laundry room was quieter than I expected. Cement floors, humming machines, a single vending machine that blinked in the corner, out of order. The smell of bleach and fabric softener clung to the air like a second skin. I went down after midnight, when the halls were empty except for the night nurse who always watched reality TV with the volume too low. The key Alma gave me slid easily into the lock. The door opened. Just a crack. Outside. Darkness. A side lot. A narrow service path leading between buildings toward the rear exit where the delivery trucks pulled in. No cameras here. Just shadows and silence. I didn't step out. Not yet. But I stood in that doorway for a long minute, breathing in air that hadn't passed through filters or vents or fragrance diffusers. Then I closed the door, locked it, and went back upstairs. The next morning, Alma was waiting for me at the edge of the dining room. She didn't ask questions, just looked at my face. Whatever she saw, it was enough. We ate in silence, her toast untouched, my tea gone cold. When the staff ushered us into the sunroom for Morning Brights, their name, not mine, she leaned toward me and said, "You ready to talk to someone who's not a lawyer?" I raised an eyebrow. "Someone on the inside." I followed her later to the far end of the West Wing, past rooms that hadn't been filled in months. One door was open just slightly, and inside sat a woman with a shaved head, her back to us. She was adjusting something in the mechanism of a wheelchair. Not her own, I realized. with the kind of care you don't learn from a training manual. Marcy, Alma said softly. This is Helen. Marcy turned. Early 60s, wiry, with hands that had seen work. She wore a maintenance badge, not nursing. But her polo shirt was the same pale blue, uniformed invisibility. She's Ruth's mother, Alma added. Marcy raised an eyebrow. The lawyer? I nodded. I know her type. She turned back to the wheelchair, clicked something into place, then stood. You want out? She asked. I want my life back. Marcy grinned. Not kindly, not unkindly, just honest. Well, you've got backbone. I'll give you that. She motioned for us to sit. What do you need from me? She asked. Proof, I said. That they're locking people in, that the POA wasn't legal, that families are doing this without consent and no one stops them. Marcy nodded. That's what I thought. She reached under the desk, pulled out a notebook. Thick, spiral bound, with tabs and colored flags sticking out at angles. I started logging things 3 years ago, she said. Dates, notes, transfers. Every time someone came in claiming voluntary placement and then screamed in the hallway an hour later. Every time someone's phone was taken for security. Every time someone's meds got adjusted without a second opinion. I stared. Alma placed a hand on mine. She's been waiting for someone to come along who could use it, she said. Why not go public? I asked. Marcy shrugged. Because people like me don't get listened to. Maintenance lady with a logbook? That's not a whistleblower. That's a liability. But a resident with a lawyer and a paper trail? Exactly. Marcy handed me a copy. Not the original. She wasn't stupid. You want the rest. You get your lawyer to call me direct. I'll talk. I'll testify. I just want the damn place on record for what it really is. What about your job? Marcy snorted. You think this is my dream gig? I stay because I got no mortgage and no kids to screw me over. But I've got my limits. She stood. You be careful, she added. Ruth's got pull. She'll get uglier before this is done. I'm not afraid of her, I said. You should be. But that doesn't mean you stop. As we left, Alma looked at me with something close to pride. I waited a long time to see someone like you walk through that door, she said. Back in my room, I scanned the pages. Names I recognized. Dates I remembered. Phrases like room door disabled and no notice given before room move and family took all personal effects without resident consent. I emailed the document to Maya. Her reply came an hour later. This is gold, verifiable, dated. If we present this with your statement and call for an inquiry, it could trigger a formal investigation. Are you ready for public action? I paused. Typed. Not yet. Let me talk to my granddaughter first. I need her to know the truth from me. No reply yet. But I didn't need one. That night, I sat by the window, the folder of evidence on my lap, and thought of Rebecca. The last time I saw her, she was wearing my old cardigan and telling me I was the only person who ever really listened. I wondered if she still believed that. If she still could. Time to find out. I didn't expect her to answer right away. It had been almost 3 weeks since the tour, since they drove me here and called it love. 3 weeks without a real voice from the outside. But the phone rang only twice before Rebecca picked up. Hello? It was her. The same tone, the same pause at the end like she always used when she wasn't sure who'd call her on a Tuesday afternoon. I didn't speak. Helen? She said, softer this time. Grandma? I closed my eyes. Yes, sweetheart, it's me. Silence. Then a shaky breath. Oh my God. Where are you? Are you okay? I've been trying to reach you. Mom said, Her voice cracked. I know what she said, I interrupted gently. But I need you to listen to me now. Just me. Not her. Not anyone else. I'm listening, she said quickly. I'm here. I told her everything, not all at once, not in one breath, but calmly, carefully, like laying out broken china on a table before beginning to glue. I told her about the locked doors, the missing phone, the clothes I hadn't packed, about the blank stares and smiling staff, and how Ruth's voice had vanished the moment the papers were signed. About the letter I found, the proof, the call to Silver Shield, the pictures, the folder from Marcy. I didn't agree to this, I said quietly. I didn't want this. They took me here like I was a problem to be solved, not a person to be loved. Rebecca didn't speak for a long time. Then, I'm coming. No, I said quickly. Not yet. I need you to listen first. Grandma, I need you to be careful. Her breathing slowed. Okay. I want you to go to my house. Check the mailbox. See if any letters came from the bank, from the city, anything official. I will. And look at the garage. See if my car is still there. She was already writing things down. I could hear her pen tapping. Have you been there lately? No. Mom said it was being cleaned out. That you were... She stopped. She said you were downsizing. Voluntarily. Sweetheart, I said gently, there is nothing voluntary about what's happened. Her voice broke. I knew something was wrong. The way they avoided talking about you. Dad looked like he was carrying around a lie. He was. Silence again. Then, what do you want me to do, Grandma? I want you to trust your instincts. I want you to tell me what you find at the house. And then I want you to decide if you're ready to help me come back. She sniffed. I'm ready. I was born ready. I smiled. That's your mother's line. Then I'm stealing it. We spoke another few minutes. I gave her Maya's number at Silver Shield, told her how to get in touch if something happened to me, if they moved me, if the phone disappeared again. I'll go tonight, she said. No, go in the morning, broad daylight. Bring someone with you. Okay. Dad won't. Don't tell your father. Not yet. She hesitated. Then, okay. Before we hung up, I said, Rebecca? Yeah? No matter what happens next, you save me today. She didn't answer with words, just a sound. A soft, fierce exhale. The kind you make when you've been holding your breath too long. That night, I kept the phone close, just in case. And in the early morning, it buzzed once. A photo. From Rebecca, the front of my house. The blinds pulled, the porch light gone. A large plastic sign in the window, for sale by owner. Below that, a realtor's phone number, not mine, not Ruth's either. A stranger. Rebecca's message followed. They already cleared out the living room. Everything's gone. The car's not here. I found mail addressed to Ruth Holloway, executor. I'm so sorry, Grandma. I'm with you now. Tell me what to do next. I stared at the message. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. This wasn't about a misunderstanding. This was about erasure. And I had no intention of disappearing quietly. The lawyer came 2 days later. They didn't know he was a lawyer. Stephen arrived wearing a soft cardigan and khakis, with a folder tucked under his arm and a half smile that said he was just another relative coming to check on his aunt. The receptionist didn't blink. She handed him a visitor badge and told him to enjoy his stay. He found me in the courtyard. I was pretending to read, eyes grazing the same page for the third time, waiting. Helen? He said quietly. I looked up, closed the book. Stephen. We shook hands like we'd known each other years. He sat down across from me. The bench creaked once under his weight. "You've got good instincts," he said. "That logbook from Marcy is a rare thing. You understand how unusual this case is? I understand that my daughter wants to erase me." He didn't argue. "I filed the emergency petition yesterday," he said. "With the documentation you provided and statements from both Marcy and Alma, we've got a strong case, but it'll take a judge and a bit of noise to get you out." I nodded. "I'm not afraid of noise." He smiled faintly. "I didn't think you were." He reached into the folder. "Here's what we're doing next. This is a formal revocation of the POA. It doesn't have to be honored yet, but once it's filed and signed in front of a notary, it puts Ruth on notice. She'll know you're challenging. She'll know you're not going quietly." "Good," I said. He passed me the page. I read every word, then I signed. "Rebecca's on board?" he asked. "She's ready for war." "That helps. Family support matters, especially when we push for reinstating your autonomy." He glanced toward the glass doors leading into the building. "You should know," he added. "Once this gets served, they may try to move you, retaliate, change meds, isolate you." "They already did all that," I said. "This time, I'll be ready." He nodded, stood, and tucked the form back into his folder. "I'll walk out the same way I came in, quietly, but we'll be very loud very soon." As he left, I watched the receptionist smile at him again. No idea she'd just let in the beginning of their end. That night, Alma knocked softly. "They know something's coming," she said. "How?" "New meds on the cart. Your name written twice. Red tab." I exhaled. "Thanks for the warning. I can stall them if they try to bring it tonight. Say you're asleep. Say you're sick. No need. Let them come." At 9:30 they did. The nurse was different, not the usual one. Tighter hair, stiffer walk. She held a small paper cup. "Evening dosage, Mrs. Holloway." I looked at the pills. 3. 1 new. "I haven't taken these before." "Just something mild to help with agitation," she said. "Doctor's note." I didn't move. "I'm not agitated," I said calmly. "I'm very clear, and I won't be taking anything new without a full medical explanation and signed consent." She paused. Then her face hardened. "This is standard protocol." "No," I said. "This is chemical compliance." She blinked. "You don't get to sedate me into silence." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply stood and looked her in the eye. After a long moment, she left. Cup untouched. Door left open. In the hallway, I saw Alma watching from the shadows. She didn't smile. She just nodded. Like we'd crossed something together. The next morning, a new sign appeared in the hallway. "Room 2B under Wellness Review, limited visitation. Please refer to staff." I laughed. Out loud, for the first time since I arrived. They were scared. Good. They should be. The day they got me to sign the papers, I remember 3 things. First, the nurse's perfume. Something floral and artificial, like wilted roses in a hospital gift shop. Second, Ruth's voice. Low, coaxing. "It's just a consent form for your scan, Mom. Nothing complicated. You can sign it now or wait until later, but we'll be here a while either way." Third, how tired I was. How my fingers didn't feel like mine when I held the pen. I signed. Didn't ask for a copy. Didn't ask what else was on the clipboard. They timed it perfectly. After a CT scan, when the sedative was still thick in my blood and the room was too bright. A nurse in the corner. Ruth standing close. I didn't know then that one of those pages would declare me legally powerless. I didn't even know they had a doctor in their pocket, some private friend of Ruth's from the old firm who scribbled possible cognitive decline based on 2 10-minute phone calls and a single missed appointment. But Stephen knew. He laid it all out for me over the phone that evening, in a voice just calm enough to contain the fury. "They used a loophole," he said. "Your daughter filed for durable medical POA using that physician's letter. No second opinion, no evaluation from a neutral party, just one letter and your groggy signature." "Is that enough?" I asked. "Sometimes, in the wrong judge's hands. But we've seen this pattern before. Families using temporary vulnerability to build a legal wall around someone's life. And you can tear it down? We're already shaking it." He told me Rebecca had sent notarized statements about the state of the house, the missing car, the packed boxes, the for sale sign that had gone up within days of my admission. "She's your strongest witness," Stephen said. "And she's already been in touch with your old lawyer, Harriet Voss. The will you signed last year. It names you as your own executor. Ruth was never listed, which means if she's acting in that role now, it's fraud." I closed my eyes. Ruth always did hate waiting. "I need you to do something," Stephen said. "When the administrator comes, and she will, probably within the next 48 hours, you don't engage, you don't argue. You say one sentence: 'My attorney has instructed me not to discuss legal matters without him present.' Then you end it. That's all. That's everything." The call ended. I sat with that sentence like it was a small shield I could carry in my palm. "My attorney has instructed me not to discuss legal matters without him present." 12 words. 12 words I would have killed to have 3 weeks ago. The next morning, it happened just as Stephen predicted. I was called to the director's office, room 104, where the chairs were just soft enough to feel like compliance and the walls were lined with prints of calm rivers and muted clouds. Ruth was there. Of course she was, wearing a blazer too expensive for empathy. "Mom," she began, "we need to talk about your behavior. Refusing medication, sneaking into restricted areas, disrupting staff. It's becoming dangerous." I looked at her, then at the woman beside her, a blonde with tightly clipped hair and a clipboard in her lap, the administrator. "I'm not discussing legal matters without my attorney present," I said clearly. Ruth blinked. "What?" I repeated it. The administrator straightened slightly. "We're not here about legal matters." "Yes," I said. "You are." Silence. Then Ruth leaned forward. "Mom, you don't know what's at stake here. You're not well. You don't get to decide that." Her mouth snapped shut. "I'm not confused. I'm not broken. I'm not slipping away." I stood. "You tried to write me out of my own story, Ruth, but I've got the pen back now." And I walked out. No yelling, no threats. Just the soft tap of my shoes on polished linoleum and a weight that finally wasn't mine to carry anymore. Back in my room, Alma was waiting. She didn't ask what happened. She just handed me a cookie wrapped in a napkin. "Peanut butter," she said. "Stolen from lunch. You earned it." I bit into it. Dry, crumbly, perfect. That night, I slept with the phone beside me, turned on, fully charged. I knew what was coming, and for the first time since they took my keys, I was ready. The bank call came at 11:42 a.m. A quiet ring, just one bar of reception on the Wi-Fi. I nearly missed it, the phone tucked between socks in my top drawer. "This is Helen," I whispered. The voice on the other end was calm, professional. A woman named Patrice from Harriet Voss's office. Mrs. Holloway, I'm calling to confirm we've filed an emergency freeze on all personal banking accounts under your name. The request was processed this morning. I exhaled. She continued. The freeze includes joint accounts with Ruth Warren. All scheduled withdrawals, including payments for the White Cedar facility, have been suspended. I closed my eyes. Thank you. There's more. We've submitted a property hold on your house. Since no legal transfer occurred and you remain the sole name on the deed, the for sale listing will be blocked pending investigation. And the car? Rebecca found it, she said gently. Your daughter left it parked at her office. We've filed a claim of unauthorized use. Rebecca's returning it to your driveway today. I didn't speak. There was nothing to say yet. Just the quiet return of ownership, not just of my things, but of myself. Harriet wanted me to tell you, Patrice added. You're not alone. We're working fast. The judge granted an initial hearing. It's set for Thursday morning. 2 days. How likely is it I'll be allowed to leave? If the judge agrees the POA was fraudulently enacted and you're deemed competent? Very likely. I thanked her again and hung up. The hallway was quiet. Too quiet. They knew. They hadn't said anything. No knocks, no meetings. But I could feel the shift. The way the nurses watched me out of the corners of their eyes. The way my meals arrived lukewarm. The way the art therapist canceled her session without explanation. I wasn't just a resident anymore. I was a threat. And threats don't get kindness. They get silence. Good. I wasn't here to be liked. I was here to walk out the front door with my name still mine and my dignity intact. That afternoon, Alma brought news. They pulled Ruth's name off the visitor list, she whispered. Someone told the desk you filed a complaint. I did. They're scared, she said. They should be. We sat in the sunroom, the one with the fake fireplace and chairs that always felt slightly damp, and watched a man in his 90s stack playing cards for no reason. What will you do, Alma asked, when you get out? I thought about it. I'll walk through every room of my house in silence. No music, no TV, no voices. Just my feet on the floorboards. She smiled. That sounds like church. It is, I said. My kind. That evening, I received an email from Maya. Subject: confirmed. POA legally suspended pending hearing. We've received formal acknowledgement from the court. The power of attorney has been temporarily revoked. Your daughter no longer has decision-making power over your finances, care, or property. Next step is the hearing. We'll be there. You'll speak. Be clear. Be steady. That's all. You've done incredibly well, Helen. Maya. I reread it 3 times, then turned off the phone. Not from fear. From peace. They couldn't touch my accounts. They couldn't sell my house. They couldn't feed me pills or pack my things or use words like combative or confused and expect me to shrink beneath them. They'd taken everything but my voice. And now I'd taken it back. That night, as I walked the hallway, I passed the open door of room 3F, where a woman I barely knew sat alone, staring out the window at nothing. I stepped inside, sat beside her, didn't speak, just sat. Because sometimes the most radical thing you can do for another woman is simply stay. Not fix, not fight. Just be still beside her long enough that she remembers she's not invisible. The courthouse was smaller than I remembered. Last time I'd been there, Leonard and I were applying for our marriage license, a lifetime ago. The walls had been painted since then, but the stairs still creaked the same way. You could tell they were used to people climbing them with heavy hearts. Stephen met me at the entrance. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm steady," I said. And I was. Inside, they led me to a bench near the front. Rebecca sat behind me, her hands folded tight in her lap, jaw clenched. She wore a navy sweater, one I hadn't seen since Christmas 2 years ago. Ruth arrived late, alone. No Daniel, no husband, just a stack of folders and her expression. Composed, blank, unreadable. She didn't look at me. I didn't need her to. The judge was a woman in her 60s, gray hair pulled back, glasses low on her nose. She didn't smile. She didn't need to. The room settled. Stephen stood first, explained the situation clearly, cleanly. No drama. The unlawful POA, the timing of the signatures, the missing notary, the conflicting physician reports, the seized assets, the isolated care. He showed the photos of my house half-packed, the "for sale" sign. He presented Marcy's logbook and Alma's affidavit. Then he stepped back. Ruth stood. Her voice, for the first time in years, sounded thin. "Your Honor," she began, "I acted out of concern. My mother's memory has been failing. She's left the stove on. She forgets names, dates." "I forget birthdays, too," the judge interrupted. "That doesn't mean I need someone taking my car." A flush rose in Ruth's neck. "She agreed to the placement." "No," I said aloud. The judge turned to me. "Mrs. Holloway, you're welcome to speak." I stood. No notes, no script. "I was not informed," I said. "I was sedated when they put documents in front of me. No witness, no lawyer, no explanation. I trusted my daughter and she used that moment to remove my autonomy." Ruth shifted in her seat. "I've lived alone for years," I continued. "Paid my own bills, drove my own car. I may walk slower, but I think clearly. I am not confused. I am not unstable. I am not gone." I looked straight at the judge. "I am still here." The room held its breath. The judge nodded slowly, then turned to Ruth. "Why did you rush the house listing?" she asked. Ruth fumbled. "To manage future expenses." "The car?" "No one was using it." "And you didn't think to discuss any of this with your mother before acting?" "She wasn't in a condition to—" "Who told you that? The family physician you play tennis with?" Silence. Then the judge leaned back in her chair. "Here's what we're going to do," she said. "I'm revoking the power of attorney in full, effective immediately. The respondent, Ruth Holloway, is to cease all financial or medical decisions on behalf of the petitioner." Stephen exhaled beside me. The judge continued. "Mrs. Helen Holloway is to be released from White Cedar Haven under her own authority. Her property and accounts are to be returned to her without delay." Then she paused, looked at me. "You did good, ma'am. Most don't push back this far. But you stood up." I nodded. "I had help." She smiled, just slightly. "We all need help. It's the fighting back that counts." Gavel down, hearing over. Just like that, the machine stopped moving. Rebecca hugged me outside, not with tears, with pressure, with strength. Like she was holding up something heavy that had finally cracked. "You were incredible," she whispered. "I was just honest." "That's not easy." "No," I said. "It's not." But it was mine. The key still worked. That surprised me. After everything, the forms, the hearings, the months of silence, I half expected to slide the key in and feel nothing. A lock changed. A cold click. But it turned. The door opened, and I stepped back inside my house. Rebecca stood behind me, holding the grocery bag. Milk, bread, a few basics. She didn't speak. She knew I needed to go first. The air inside was still. No scent, no music, just quiet. Heavy, but not sad. Familiar. I walked through the front room slowly, letting my eyes land where they wanted. The rug was missing, the one Leonard brought back from that conference in New Mexico. The clock was gone too, and the lamp by the window. Little things that had no resale value, just story. They'd taken the stories. I found the marks on the wall from where pictures used to hang. Nail holes. A faint outline of dust. In the kitchen, the calendar still said May. The 14th circled. Dr. W., 10 a.m. The day it all began. I left it up. I opened cabinets. Some empty. Some just rearranged. Someone else's order in my own drawers. That was worse than empty. But the chair by the window was still there, and the cracked teacup, and the old radio with the loose knob, and the scent, faint but real, of lemon soap on the sink. It was mine. Bit by bit, it was still mine. Rebecca moved quietly behind me, set the groceries down, unloaded them like she'd been doing it for years. "Do you want me to stay tonight?" she asked. "No," I said gently. "Not yet." She nodded. Didn't look hurt. "Call me if anything feels off." "I will." She hesitated. "They might still try things, Grandma. Appeal, delay. They'll fight back." "I know," I said. "But now you've got me," she added. "Not just as a witness, as your family." I looked at her, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like someone's burden. I felt seen. She left with the same quiet she'd entered, and I locked the door behind her. Slowly, from the inside. I made tea. It tasted flat. Old bags, water too hard. But it was mine. I drank it by the window, watching the neighbors walk their dogs, kids riding bikes in loose loops down the sidewalk. The life I thought I'd lost hadn't vanished. It had waited. Quietly, just like me. That night, I slept in my own bed. The sheets were stiffer than I remembered. The mattress had a dip in the middle now. And the silence? It rang like a bell, but it was honest. And it asked nothing of me but to rest. Not prove, not explain, not obey. Just rest. I keep the file folder in the drawer next to my chair. Not out of paranoia. Not anymore. But because it matters that it's there. The printed emails. The court notice. The notarized revocation of the POA. The photocopies of Ruth's attempts. The house. The car. The medical orders. They sit there like a reminder. Someone tried to erase me. And failed. I don't read them often, but I don't throw them away. Some truths don't need retelling. They just need to be kept. Rebecca visits every Saturday. She doesn't come with flowers. She brings questions, mail, a new book. Once, a video from some woman on the internet talking about elder advocacy. Her face lit up when she saw the topic. "You started something," she said. Maybe I did. But I didn't do it for advocacy. I did it because one morning, someone took my keys at the door and smiled like it was kindness. And I knew in my bones that if I didn't fight right then, I'd never be let back in. The house is still quiet. I keep it that way on purpose. The television works, but it stays off. The radio hums low in the afternoon, classical or sometimes old swing. I sit in the chair by the window with a cup of tea and the newspaper, even if I don't read much beyond the headlines. Sometimes quiet is how you know you're still in charge. Other days I walk. Not far, just to the corner and back. But each step feels earned. Neighbors wave again. Some didn't know what had happened. Some did, but didn't ask. I don't mind either way. Not everything needs a retelling. Alma writes letters. She stayed behind by choice. said she wasn't ready to go. Not yet. But she writes with sharpness now. Fire. Like someone lit a lamp in the back of her mind, and it's still burning. Marcy quit. Last I heard, she was helping file a formal complaint against the facility with the state. I hope she finishes what she started. But I already know she's done more than most. And Ruth? We haven't spoken. No apology. No explanation. Just a silence that hums like absence, not peace. And that's fine. Some things aren't mended. Some things are simply seen and then left behind. She thought she knew what was best for me. But what she really wanted was to make me smaller, more manageable, forgettable. That's the part that stings. Not the betrayal, but the shrinking. She didn't think I'd push back. Didn't think I'd have allies. Didn't think I'd remember how to speak in a room built to ignore me. But I did. And I still do. The phone rings sometimes. Reporters, legal offices, advocacy groups. I don't answer most. I didn't do this to be a symbol. I did it because I was not done living, and no one gets to decide that but me. So now I write. A little, most mornings, in longhand. Not for anyone. Just for me. Letters, mostly. Some to Leonard. Some to myself. Some to women I've never met, but who I know are out there. Sitting in rooms where the lights buzz too bright, where the doors don't open, where people talk around them like they're already gone. I write to say, you're not gone. You're not forgotten. And you are not small. Not just because I got out, but because you can, too. If you're reading this, and someone made you feel like you don't get to decide anymore, remember this. You do. You always did. They just hoped you'd forget. Don't. Like, share, or leave a comment. Someone out there might need this today.